welcome back to Zaka Stokvel Insights, where we explore the world of stokvels and burial societies. Before the break, we touched on the term growth and the growth of membership in stokvels. Now let's take a look at Ikaheng's Burial Society's second challenge, which is administration. Ntate Masurubele, good administration is a requirement for any stokvel to be successful. But before we touch on that, what are the pros and cons of growth for stokvels?
Let's start with the advantages. I think the advantages is that you have more resources. And people are attracted to success. So when people see your stokvel going places, you know, people buying taxis, people improving their houses, depending on what the stokvel does. So you attract good people, and therefore everyone has more resources to work with. Better returns for joining that stokvel. So those are the positives. However, it's important to also touch on the negatives. So the negatives are that administration becomes key, what you just spoke about. So the more people you have, the more your admin systems have to be on point. The more problems you have, because if you had one member who was giving you a problem, they weren't paying on time. Now when those numbers increase proportionally, now you have 10 members that you have to deal with that aren't paying on time. So, you know, there's this saying that more money, more problems. So there are those problems that stokvels have to look out for, in as much as they want to grow, but they must be aware of what the challenges that come with growth are, and then put in place systems that will mitigate those particular challenges.
I like how you mentioned that, you know, there needs to be key objectives, they need to be decided on that, and with growth as well, there's such, you know, there is such a thing as bad growth as well. But when just looking at the contractual or the compliance aspect of stokvels as well, how can Ikaheng sort of implement, I don't know, a lawyer, or add in a lawyer, or have a more structured legality in terms of how they function, their stokvel or burial society?
Yeah, so the first part that stokvels are very familiar with is what's called a constitution. So stokvels, a lot of stokvels actually are very, you know, aware of the fact that they have to have a constitution. What a stokvel constitution does, it guides every member of a stokvel, and it commits them to operating in a particular manner. So it almost becomes like a contractual agreement. I mean, we've worked with stokvels where people actually have to sign to being members of stokvels, and meaning that they have to agree to the terms and conditions of being part of that stokvel. So, you know, engaging with a lawyer, sometimes that also has costs involved in it, you know, and at some point you have to then engage a lawyer if there are really material things. But our guidance to stokvels is to say, if you've got a constitution, just make sure that you review that constitution. It's not cast in stone. You can't have a constitution that you drafted 10 years ago and you're still working with the same constitution. Review your constitution, make sure that if there are any loopholes that people are able to take advantage of, or it's silent on any matter, because the constitution can also cover every aspect and cover the stokvel legally in every way. So that's why it becomes important, if there's a challenge, you then note it, and then come time to review the constitution, you make sure that you put provisions that make sure that that loophole is then closed. So for instance, you'll find one big complaint that comes in is that, you know, someone pays their premiums late and it affects the whole group. Or the stokvel says, you know, we gave money to member X and member X is not paying back the money. Or member X, because they have access to the bank account, they made a withdrawal, and now we've realized that they've made a withdrawal and we want the money back. So those are typically some of the challenges that stokvels have. But we think that having a constitution and terms and conditions of being a member of stokvel suffice in making sure that good administration holds people accountable. And then as a last port of call, you then take the legal route, but you then empowered with the contractual obligations that individual members had to join in that stokvel.
Now, just briefly, quick scenario. I join a stokvel, I sign the necessary contracts, I'm aware that there's a lawyer involved, but I still don't make my monthly contributions. Well, what's the worst case scenario here? What happens after that? It's
something that stokvels are very reluctant to talk about, and that's making provision for ultimate expulsion of members. So there should be a provision. Sometimes, you have to take stock of your group. And you've got a group of 50 people that has an objective to reach an investment target of, we're going to have 200,000 Rand come end of the year, because in January, this is an investment that we're making. One member makes it impossible to reach that target. Now, what the Stokvel then has to make provision for in that scenario, what do we do? Do we continue reprimanding that person for 12 months? And what have we lost out on? We lost out on an investment opportunity that existed in that window only. But because of one member, and that member, because maybe it happens to be a founding member, as it were, we encourage Stokvels, as cold as it sounds, but sometimes it's something that has to happen, to say we have to have a provision that says if you miss a payment for 1 or 2 months, you expose yourself to the risk of being expelled from that group. Because remember, this is an organized and official structure that you have. So you can't have one person then, holding the rest of the group back, as it were. So in that scenario, expulsion becomes an option for the benefit of the bigger group.
So more money, more problems,
Yeah.
which means tough decisions need to be made.
100%.
We'll take a very short break. Please do stay with us. We'll be back.
Are you a member of a Stokvel or burial society? We at Thai Vision Media specialize in helping Stokvels and burial societies. Contact us for professional Stokvel and burial society administration, access to investments and funeral cover experts, and credible financial information. We will help your Stokvel and burial society to achieve your goals and grow. Contact us today.